Hi, I'm Michael Allen Sell, loan officer with Eustis Mortgage in New Orleans, and this is part two, pre-approval. If you remember in part one, pre-qualification, we talked about that initial discussion, typically by telephone, right? It was all verbal. It was all, this is what I make, this is my salary, these are my bills, that sort of thing. So the pre-approval simply takes everything we talked about and makes that solid. So what does that mean? After that initial conversation, if everything sounds in order, then I send you a link to the application. Now we can do it together by phone too if you prefer, no problem for that. But usually I'm sending the link for the application. That takes about 10 to 15 minutes. It's very user-friendly, very intuitive, no issues with handling that whatsoever, I guarantee. The other part is going to be this, documents. So what I do is include a list in the text of the documents that you need in order to be pre-approved. The application is so user-friendly and intuitive at the same time, it's going to know to ask you those based on how you fill out the application. But I like to let you know in advance so you're prepared for it. In almost every situation, these are the documents that I ask for as PDFs, not JPEGs. One, driver's license or passport for ID. Number two would be a month of pay stubs. And how this works, if you're paid once a week, then I need 4 pay stubs. You're paid twice a month. 2, you're paid once a month, then 1 pay stub. Simple as that. If you are with ADP or any of the companies that are nationwide, you can actually then log in to that company via the app and just import them so you don't actually have to upload the documents. So that'll save you a step. Third thing, so we've got driver's license, we've got pay stubs. Third item will be 2 months of bank statements. I need all pages. Even if the last few pages are blank, I still need them. Why are they required? Obviously we need the driver's license, right? To know that you are you. Obviously we need the pay stubs to know how much you make, because that's going to show year to date. That'll show where you are right here, right now. Why do I need bank statements? Because one, I need to see how much is in the bank and or 401k currently. And then 2 is for the federal guidelines, money needs to be seasoned for minimum of 2 months in a bank account. What does that mean? You can't use closet money, essentially. It can't be, you can't come to closing with a satchel full of money. You can't come to closing with a backpack full of money. It's got to be sitting in that bank account for a minimum of 2 months. And then the last item is going to be a little different in some cases, but almost always comes down to some sort of federal document. So in most cases, it will be the last 2 years of W-2s. If you're self-employed fully, or you have additional income on top of your W-2 income from something that you do on the side as a side hustle, then if that's a way that we can make income boost a little bit, then I'll need 2 years of tax returns. If this is Schedule C, federal 1040s, that's good. If you are self-employed and you do K1s, then I need the personal 1040s in addition to actually the business returns for that, okay? So those are all the documents that I need, and you upload those after you have completed the application itself. Then once you've done that, then it's my turn to get to work. What I do is, one, I review everything in the application, make sure there's no missing parts, no boxes that we need a yes or no for different items, government questions, this or that. Make sure I've got date of birth in there, make sure I've got current address, all those things, current real estate owned if there's other properties, all those things. If need be, then I come back to you to find out the answers. Ideally, I can figure out based on other information, and then I plug it in myself. Second thing I do is this. I pull credit to see where your FICO scores were at, because I know the scores that you saw from whatever site or app that you use will give us a good ballpark, but it's not going to be an exact FICO score, which, to be frank, can only be seen when you talk to a loan officer to buy a house. So it will deviate just a little bit for that. So I'll see what those are. I'll jot those down so I can let you know what those came in at. And then the third part is I review documents. I make sure, okay, the driver's license, that hasn't expired. What are we looking at for the pay stub? Does the year-to-date match up with what the paycheck is for that, let's say, 2-week period of time? Does all that fit? What are our amounts for our W-2s? And in some cases, I'll say things like, oh, okay, well, I can see that the W-2 income was here, but the current income is here. And I'll jot any questions. So I know that next time we speak, I might ask something like, I saw you were making this amount in 2023 and 2024, and now you're making this amount. Did you get a raise? Did you get a job position update, or upgrade for that? Any of those things. Because what I know is the underwriter is probably going to ask those questions. So I wanted to know that in advance. So all those things to kind of help us out a little bit. And that's just one of those things you learn as you do this several times. If you become seasoned, you learn the things to know in advance that you need to kind of have your antenna perk up to. So I'm going through all those things. I'm looking at those. If there's anything that I need that I didn't receive, I reach out. If there's anything I need more clarification, I reach out for that. If not, and we're there on application, we're there on credit, we're there on all the documents requested, then the next thing I do is, regardless of what amount that you put in the system for the sales price, I look for the highest amount that I can have for a working sales price based on what might be kind of an average rent based on property taxes specifically from the parish. And if you're looking for multiple parishes, I'll just kind of cut to the middle on that. And then what I do is run the pre-approval. This is run digitally in the system with software. This is not a guessing game on my part. So that's how solid the pre-approval is we didn't even get to this point without the pre-qualification phone call or conversation. And then after the pre-approval, I'm running that digitally in the system. And then from that, I'm basically getting word like, okay, this works, and this is what an underwriter will do down the line, run the same thing, or I need to go a little lower on the sales price if I was really pushing the numbers. What I do from that point is I notify the buyer, I notify their agent that, guess what, congratulations, big congratulations, you're pre-approved, this is your max, contingent upon this, okay? So one, you want to know in the letter what your max is to know anything below that works. You just can't go above that, okay? If I know that you're looking for a higher price point, then what I'll say is we can do that if you potentially, let's say, pay off some credit cards at closing or anything to reduce your monthly bills. That can give us more wiggle room. That's going to be different than the letter that I provide to the listing agent when you make an offer, because we don't want them to know what your max is for the sake of negotiation. And then other than that, the contingent items will be, we still need the title work to be solid. We'll get into that. We want the appraisal to be solid. We'll get into that. Maybe there's specific items. Maybe you're moving from out of town to get a job, and we've discussed it, but you will need to provide either a job offer letter, or if you're working and just continuing your work in the New Orleans area, a letter from HR of continuance saying you can do your work with no drop in salary, starting on this and this date, and etc. Any of those things. But that essentially is what the pre-approval is. It's good for the duration of the credit report. If we need to update it, if you haven't closed in that period of time, it's no problem. I just repull credit, and then I get any updates from you if they're pertinent, specifically for salary, but also updated bank statements for that. So again, I am Michael Sell with Eustace Mortgage in New Orleans, and this was part 2, pre-approval. In the next section, so part 3, we'll get into what happens when you go under contract and how that process works of actually getting under contract.